Clerk will call the roll.
Glenn Whitley, County Judge.
Here.
Roy Charles Brooks, Commissioner of Precinct 1. Andy H. Wynn, Commissioner of Precinct 2.
Here.
Gary Fickus, Commissioner of Precinct 3.
Here.
J.D. Johnson, Commissioner of Precinct 4.
Here.
Constitutes a quorum.
Present.
Thank you, Commissioner. Our invocation today will be delivered by our own Chaplain David Barrett, Tarrant County Sheriff's Office. After the invocation, please remain standing for our pledges.
Would you bow with me, please? Almighty God, as we come to another Christmas season and year end, we find ourselves in times of trouble. Some have even declared that you are not fixing this. I'm sorry that they have missed the point. As long as there are good peace officers placing themselves between citizens in danger, you are fixing this. As long as there are citizens willing to serve in the armed forces to fight against evil, you are fixing this. As long as there are political leaders putting the people first, you are fixing this. As long as there are people choosing faith amid the fear, trust amid the tragedy, blessing in spite of the bombs, harmony instead of hate, and who at this time of year choose to make others merry in spite of the mess, you are fixing this. I ask for this court, all of our employees and our citizens, that you make us those people. With unwavering faith in your power, goodness, and grace, I ask for each one protection, peace, and hope. And I beseech you, God, bless us, everyone. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the Court, we have one announcement as it relates to the agenda today. That is under purchasing. That is item 8I1, which is bid 2016-037. There's revised court communication in your red folder on this particular item. I'd also like to remind the court that this is the last full court session that we're going to have for calendar year 15. We will have an abbreviated meeting on December 29th to hear claims and personnel agenda issues. That meeting will not be held in this courtroom. That meeting will be held in 504C because beginning tomorrow we're going to start doing some work in the courtroom dealing with the cameras and the different boards and everything, so the courtroom will be under construction at that time.
Wi-Fi?
We do have Wi-Fi here. I think, yes, absolutely. Plus, we're going to have upgraded cameras and upgraded vote boards and things such as that. So that's something that the court has approved, and we were going to do that during the holiday break. So the 29th meeting will be in room 504C.
Just for point of information, that's the same day as the Armed Forces Bowl?
Right.
It starts at 1 o'clock?
Yes. This meeting starts at 10 o'clock, and we
Should
take
be
all
over
of
about 10:03, depending on how long-winded any of y'all get.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I have an announcement, too, I would like to make. Since we're announcing things, I think we have a senior member of our court is celebrating his birthday today.
Yes, indeed.
But our county judge, it's his birthday, so I think we ought to say happy birthday to the judge.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Glenn. Happy birthday to you.
Great. Thank you.
We need to get a recording of that song to send to him.
Well, it's all right, 'cause I wasn't singing in it. My wife kind of prohibited me from singing it.
So Judge,
how senior are you?
does that mean that you're rolling off of our health insurance and moving over to Medicare?
Just a
No,
little bit.
let me just say this. I'm still one of the youngest members on the court. I am not, let me put it, I'm not on the 3 side of the majority on that deal.
You're getting
Yeah, but as long as y'all are still here, I'm going to stay behind. Thank y'all very much. I appreciate that. Court members, you have before you the minutes of our meeting of December the 1st.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. We have a resolution. Commissioner Johnson.
I do, Your Honor, if you would read that into the record, please.
Thank you. R4 Foundation. Whereas Walt and Claire Reynolds and Donald and Fantasy Reynolds, the 4 founding directors of R4 Foundation, live and work in Fort Worth and hope to inspire their children and others to live compassionate lives of substance and value. And whereas feeling gratitude and humility in the wake of their blessings, they have directed R4 to give back within the 4 pillars of the charitable purpose, and that its grants should serve a smart charitable investment within Fort Worth area. And whereas the R4 Foundation makes grants to organizations including capacity building through the application of new technologies, innovative programs, human resourcing, entrepreneurial efforts, and smart capital campaigns. And whereas the directors of the R4 Foundation believe in the mission of the Criminal District Attorney of Tarrant County to enhance the public safety through rigorous enforcement of criminal and civil laws in an ethical, honest, and just manner. And whereas officers play a vital role in accomplishing this mission, and whereas the R4 Foundation Criminal District Attorney's Office Police Lounge, located in the Tim Curry Criminal Justice Center, is a result of the vision and partnership between the directors of the R4 Foundation and the Tarrant County Criminal District Attorney. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Commissioners Court of Tarrant County, do hereby commend the R4 Foundation and the Criminal District Attorney's Office for its contribution of the R4 Foundation Criminal District Attorney's Office Police Lounge. In witness whereof, we have herein to set our hands and cause the seal of Tarrant County to be affixed this 8th day of December, 2015.
I'll move for its approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And the President and Chief Executive Officer of the R4 Foundation, Mr. Brett Helmer, is present to accept this plaque. If you'll meet me at the podium, please. We have to pose for a picture, though.
Go on, get in there, Sheriff.
Come on. Well, thank you very much, and any comments you'd like to make to the court, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
We sure are appreciative of the service that the Commissioners Court gives to the citizens of Tarrant County every day, and it's not often that regular citizens of the community can come in and see what you're doing, because mostly they don't know where you are. They're busy living their lives, but folks like us will now go out and trumpet public-private partnerships such as this, and particularly as a former state and federal prosecutor myself, we continue to look for ways to help Tarrant County. We always will. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brooks, I believe you had a
I
presentation.
do. Merry Christmas to all.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
It has become traditional that on our last meeting day before our break for the holiday season, Precinct 1 brings you a musical Merry Christmas. Unfortunately, this year, we're not able to produce the O.D. Wyatt Choir because they are in that high-stakes testing process, and they're not allowed to travel this week. But we do have something else for you this morning, a short musical program that I hope will be as uplifting to you as the choir. At least we accept that challenge. I give to you one of the executive administrators for Precinct 1, Mr. Roderick Miles Jr., a former member of the O.D. Wyatt Singing Chaparral Choir, who in his high school days sang for this court.
Don't oversell it, Commissioner.
And then you get me. So what can I tell you? Rod, go for it.
All right. This is a brief snippet of the song Emmanuel. Emmanuel, Emmanuel, his name is called Emmanuel. God with us, revealed in us, his name is called Emmanuel.
All right, brother. Now, the rest of this program is participatory. That's right. You will see the words to O Holy Night on the screen behind me. And I would greatly appreciate if you would join me in this song. Hit it, Mr. Duff.
I'll reference what I said previously.
Which was?
My wife does not allow me to sing, but I'll attempt anyway.
All right.
There you go.
GK forgot to turn it on over there. We're live.
Holy night, the stars are brightly shining. It is the night of our dear Savior's birth. Long lay the world thrill of hope. The weary world rejoices, for yonder breaks a new and glorious morn. Fall on your knees. Oh, hear the angel voices. Oh, night divine. Oh, night when Christ was born. Oh, night divine. Oh, night, oh, holy night. Cut the music, Mr. Bell. And finally, we wish you a Merry Christmas. Everyone knows that. So, Merry Christmas. No. You don't get off that easy. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas to you and your kin. Good tidings for Christmas and a Happy New Year. One more time. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Merry Christmas to all. Cut the music, please, Mr. Clerk. Merry Christmas to all. And all of the blessings for which Chaplain Barrett prayed in his invocation, may they be yours in abundance. Thank you, Roderick.
One note, I would like for you to check with Fort Worth ISD's schedule next year and make sure that our last meeting is not on the, that does not correspond with the week of their tests.
I've already written that down.
Thank you,
Or
Commissioner.
you'll have to sing next.
Thank you, Commissioner. Court members, you have before you the consent agenda.
Move approval.
Second. We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Commissioners and County Judge. We have two items to bring to the court this morning. The first one is action concerning the casting of votes for the election of Tarrant Appraisal District Board of Directors. As you might recall, we have nominated two individuals for the board that qualify to be on the board, Mr. Johnny Bennett and Mr. Mark Wood. I've checked with Tad. Yesterday, Mr. Wood already has a sufficient number of votes to place him on the board. Mr. Bennett currently has 205. I believe that the number that we cast is 562.
I move that as we did last year, Tarrant County cast all of its votes for Mr. Johnny Bennett.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Court members, on item number 2, Ms. McMillan is going to make that presentation.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. As you know, TTI Incorporated is a leading electric component distributor that's been doing business in Fort Worth and Tarrant County for over 40 years. In May of 2012, the Commissioners Court approved a request by TTI to be added to the Alliance Corridor Foreign Trade Zone for its 2 locations in Fort Worth at Northeast Parkway and Sylvania Cross Drive. As part of that approval, we had asked that certain new investment be made, including at least $20 million in new real and personal property and employment of at least 853 jobs at the combined locations by the end of 2016. In completion of that investment commitment, TTI is now constructing a new $40 million, 600,000 square foot building at the corner of Beach Street and Meacham Boulevard. They also currently employ 884 positions at their Fort Worth locations, and they're expected to grow employment with this new facility. TTI's current facilities have the foreign trade zone locations, so there would be no loss of inventory revenue to have this new location designated as a foreign trade zone. However, the county will recognize added taxable value from the $40 million investment at the location. So today, the Commissioners Court is asked to approve a letter of concurrence to the Foreign Trade Zone Board allowing for the Foreign Trade Zone designation through the Alliance Corridor Foreign Trade Zone for TTI Incorporated for the facility to be located at the northwest corner of Beach Street and Meacham Boulevard in Fort Worth.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion and a second. Are they going to, go ahead.
We only get so many of these designations a year. Where do we stand? I assume.
No, those are the enterprise zone. This
That's
foreign
it.
trade zone is, they go actually to either the DFW Foreign Trade Zone Board or the Alliance Corridor. Those are the 2 foreign trade zones that are mainly working in our area. So they have to go and request that to be added. It becomes a subset part of that trade zone. But we're unlimited on those.
Very good.
Are they going to move their location, or is this just an addition to the location that they have on the west side of 35 there at 820?
It's going to be an addition. They're going to keep their headquarters locations. One of the facilities that currently has a designation will be eventually moving its employees to that location.
Where did they build the $40 million building?
I'm sorry?
The $40 million building, where was that built?
It's being built. It hasn't been built yet. It's being built at Beach Street and Meacham Boulevard.
Any other discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Oh, I was going, Ms. Snyder, but somebody taking that? Helen, are you? You're up.
Sorry. I was reading. We're seeking approval for 3 claims that have been recommended for payment by the Risk Management Board.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Phillips.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's requested the Commissioners Court approve a construction management pre-construction services contract with Conrail for the Dion Phillips Bagsby Southwest Sub-Courthouse expansion project.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
It's requested that Commissioners Court approve a contract with Bennett Venner Partners for architectural engineering services related to the Dion Phillips Bagsby Southwest Sub-Courthouse project.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Glenn.
Move to receive and file personnel agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to receive and file the personnel agenda. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Good morning. The second item, we're asking the court to approve an additional merit increase funding for small merit pools. As described in your court communique, what we're attempting to do is to ensure that Departments that have small merit pools are able to provide additional merit increases for their eligible employees. And just a couple of points, these merit pools will be limited to those areas where we have 5 or fewer non-law enforcement positions. If positions are funded by grants or special funds, then of course funding will have to be available in those funds to address those additional increases. Merit increases can only be awarded up to the highest merit percentage that's approved by Commissioners Court. And then finally, employees who receive these additional merit funds must meet the same eligibility criteria as established by the Commissioners Court for all other merit eligible employees. So we're estimating that the maximum potential impact to the general fund will be around $38,000. That includes fringe benefits, and the maximum potential impact to special funds and grants will be around $31,300. And again, that does include fringe benefits. And again, this funding would be available on January 1st if approved by the court.
Move approval.
Second.
A motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our third item, we're asking the court to approve a double fill as well as a waiver for Judge Lowe. Judge Lowe has a court coordinator who's retiring at the end of January. The anticipated cost of the double fill as well as the waiver to the general fund will be approximately $11,417.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Our next item, we're asking the court to approve a waiver of terminal benefits for the district clerk's office. As described in your court communique, Mr. Walder has a lead felony clerk who's retiring at the end of the year with 400 vacation hours. If approved, we're anticipating a net savings to the general fund of less than $1,000.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Next, we have an approval for an out-of-class pay extension for public health. This one you've seen a few times before. This is the situation where Mr. Dixon assumed the duties of Doug Fabio, who passed unexpectedly. So we're estimating the cost to the general fund to be approximately $1,800, but the $1,800 will be offset by salary savings.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Next, we have approval for another out-of-class pay extension. This is for JP3. You all are aware of the staffing shortage that Judge Casey currently has, and this helps to address that. We're estimating the cost to the general fund to be approximately $566.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Finally, we have an item. We're asking the court to approve a table of organization changes to the Criminal District Attorney's Office and the Sheriff's Office. The Criminal District Attorney would like to transition 4 positions from the Narcotics Unit to the Sheriff's Office effective 1/1/2006. These are 4 positions. They will be moved, same title, same pay, no change. There are 7 additional positions that are currently funded as part of our Narcotics Cost Center. Those positions will be reallocated within the Criminal District Attorney's Office. One of the 7 positions is a pay grade 57 Sector Commander. We're requesting that that position be reclassified to a pay grade 56 Investigator. So when it's all said and done, with the transition of the 4 positions and the reallocation of the 7 remaining positions, we're looking at a cost savings to the general fund of approximately $22,881.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion is second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
And item 8 will come back to you for action after the briefing.
Okay, thank you. Vinnie? Did you get Stan taken care of over there?
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the court.
Good morning.
We
Well,
have
it's
two
Siri
items.
for most of us, but I thought it may be Stan. You know, it sounded like a Stan versus a Siri, so.
We have two items before you for approval today. The first one is the approval of interim financing for FY16 for the Texas Department of State Health Services HIV/AIDS Surveillance Grant, STD/HIV Prevention Grant, and Tuberculosis Prevention and Control Outreach Grant contract renewals.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Second item for you, for your consideration is the approval of Public Health Demonstration Year 4 for the Texas Medicaid 1115 Waiver Intergovernmental Transfer Payment to the Department of Health and Human Services Commission at Texas. And the amount that we're looking to do IGT for is approximately $3.6 million. And the estimated payment back to us in January would be approximately $8 million.
Move
How much?
approval.
About $8 million coming back.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vinnie.
I'd like to take you to Vegas.
Odds are good.
Mr. Beecham, come on down. You got that green tie on for you? Just taking a break?
It's, no.
Baylor time? It ain't Baylor time. Baylor didn't.
I understand that Robert Early from the hospital district has a solo this morning. I've been assured it'll be so low we can't hear him.
That's good. Where's Shannon at? You got to strut about twice this year, didn't you?
We have
Go
7
ahead.
items for your consideration this morning. Our first item is a bid award recommendation for bid 2016-037, bid for the sale of recycled paper. A recommendation is bid to award to the high bidder, Pinnacle Paper, purchasing our assorted office paper at the rate of $125 per ton.
Move approval. Second.
A motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 2 is another bid award recommendation for RFP 2016-010, signing a contract for compensation study services for human resources. Recommendation would be to award to the Hay Group.
Is this cost in line with what we've been paying? Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion, second. It is?
That is a 5-year contract?
4 years.
Four-year contract, so that's the total for 4 years.
Okay, that's a little bit better, because I was thinking along the lines of what you were, that this thing was running around 40 to 50,000 a year, and I was a little nervous about that. Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 3 is a bid award recommendation for RFP 2016-011. It's an RFP for specialized electrical services for facilities management. A recommendation would be toward the primary and secondary vendors as shown in the court communique.
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 4 is another bid award recommendation for bid 2016-013, signing a contract for the purchase of self-propelled asphalt pavers. Recommendation would be to award on a per unit price basis, awarding certain items to the 6 vendors as shown in your court communique.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 5, again, is a bid award recommendation for bid 2016-016, signing a contract for road flares for the Sheriff's Department. Recommendation would be toward a per unit price basis, awarding to the primary and secondary vendors.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Item number 6, again, a bid award recommendation for bid 2016-027. This is our semi-annual contract for copy paper, stock paper, and envelopes. Recommendation would be awarded to the 3 vendors, certain items meeting all specifications as shown in court.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Last item, number 7, is also a bid award recommendation for bid 2016-029, signing a contract for AMP software. Recommendation would be awarded to a company called Taser.
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Charlie, I didn't mean to leave you out back there. I know you're a little happy with Texas victory, too. Sheriff Anderson, good to see you. How are you, sir?
Good morning. I'm great. How are y'all?
Good morning, Sheriff.
Which game did you work this past weekend?
I had my first week off. Thanksgiving, I was in Austin, so I had my first weekend off this weekend. We were in Austin for Thanksgiving Day. My family got to eat nachos for Thanksgiving dinner. Not good. I'll take a minute. I know all of you are aware of the discussions and the ongoing negotiations that have involved all the county departments since almost a year ago, since our new criminal district attorney was elected. She expressed a desire to move the existing narcotics unit, which has existed under the DA's command for, I think, 25 years or so, into the sheriff's department, into our office, and we are agreeable to take that on as a law enforcement function. We felt like that was the proper place for this unit to exist. I do want to thank everyone that's helped us, including the administrator's office, HR, the auditor. Everyone has been involved in this very complex issue. So today I'm here to hopefully finalize this action for us, to ask you to approve our interlocal agreements, which will allow the other departments and cities to come on board with this new organization. This will run much like, for us, the other two task force that we run, the Auto Crimes Task Force and the Clean Air Task Force. We will establish a board of directors, and the Commissioners Court will have a seat for one of y'all or a designee on that board of directors, and then the cities and participating agencies will also have spots on that board of directors. So we anticipate getting this up and running as soon after the new year as possible, so we're trying to get all this business taken care of. The current Sheriff's Office Narcotics Unit will be folded into this unit, so it will be one organization. We won't maintain two organizations. This has been favorably received by most everyone that we've come in contact with, including many of the participating agencies. And in the audience today, we have the police chiefs from Hearst and Euless here today to support this endeavor, and are eager to get started with the new operation. So with that, I will answer any questions or ask you to approve the interlocal agreement as it's drawn up for us to move forward with this thing that I think is going to be a very good move for criminal justice in Tarrant County.
I'll move approval.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Dick.
Sharon, everybody, for all the work that's gone into this. Commissioner Brooks, I believe you have an interlocal agreement.
I do have an interlocal agreement with the city of Forest Hill. I presume that it is 8L1A and B.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Johnson.
I have several interlocal agreements, item 8, 2, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H. I move approval of.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Appointments.
I move to appoint Jenny McGurry to the Board of Directors of the Arlington Toast Number 1, the Downtown, Toast Number 4 in the Highlands, Toast Number 5, the Entertainment Districts, and Toast Number 6, the Viridian Development.
Second.
And let me add to your motion, if I might.
Yes, sir.
Before we second it. The appointment of Steve Townsend, Board of Directors of Haltom City, TRIC number 1.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing, we have before you the claims, including the addendum.
Move approval of the claims, including the addendum.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously. Briefing items, Mr. Manius.
Thank you, Your Honor. We have 3 items to bring to you this morning. The first is the monthly update from the hospital district. Mr. Early is here to address the board at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Mr. Manius, thank you very much. I appreciate the bubbly tie that you have on. It's very helpful. And Ron, I'm colorblind, but I can see you coming. That is very festive. You are very good.
Oh, is that the one he's hiding back there?
Can't you tell the glow's been coming over the,
It is a festive occasion.
said he's got his sunglasses on, I think.
A couple of things I wanted to tell you. I think an organization, particularly an organization the size of John Peter Smith Health Network with 48 locations and close to 6,000 employees, needs to figure out the best way it can always listen to its employees. And one of the things that we did is we conduct a yearly employee survey, and we had 90% participation from our employees in that survey. That puts us in the upper percentile in the nation for employees that want to communicate. And the reason that that's very helpful, and you all know this, is when communications break down is when you lose things. Whether it's personal life or whether it's professional life, if people refuse to talk, you have missed out. So if our folks are talking, even if they're providing constructive criticism, even if they're saying we don't like what's going on, there's still an interest of engagement that causes them to talk. So 90% of them talking is very, very important. And what I've done in addition to that is I just concluded 30 town hall meetings, meeting with our employees. I met with just over 2,500 employees in a non-mandatory setting. They could come out and listen to where we think we're going, listen to our vision, our strategy, the approach to what we do. I spend about 30 minutes to 35 minutes talking to the employees. We do it on the hour. We do it from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. during the week, and then we do it on Saturday, and we do it on Sunday. And we bring folks in, and we just say, tell us what your concerns are. That was hugely helpful, because there's things in an organization of that size that you will not know. I mean, I didn't realize that there was a division of our nurses that we took their microwaves away. We took their microwaves away because we seem to have a propensity of burning popcorn. Every time we burn popcorn, then the fire department comes out. And that siren sound doesn't make a siren sound, it makes a cha-ching sound. So we have to reduce the amount of times that obviously we're burdening them for burning popcorn. Those kind of little things that mean a lot to somebody's daily activity. So we got to work out some type of compromise between microwaves and burning popcorn.
How about training?
Well, I think they already had training, and it was a how you burn popcorn training, and we're trying to come up with a new program.
Let's flip that.
We are trying very hard to flip that.
What we did we still do at the Arlington Sub-Courthouse was we brought in a popcorn corn machine manned by a couple volunteers about once a month, and that worked out pretty well.
And that's a good suggestion. We do that. In fact, the people that run our popcorn machine from the voluntary service is questionable because it's my parents. So my parents are the volunteers that sell popcorn at JPS every Thursday. So
You can also burn it in those machines.
you can. And we've had, in fact, Thanksgiving, we had a long discussion about that, about burning
Once you develop that
popcorn.
video, would you be sure and let us have that copy of that? So
Well, it's a challenge.
it does occur occasionally around here, and it waffles
Yeah,
up to the fifth floor.
It's amazing. Actually, in light of popcorn and burning, we actually learn a lot when you go, because you can't see every aspect of an organization. And there are things that folks will deal with that I won't deal with on a daily basis. And it's helpful to hear, and it's helpful to get those suggestions on how to make the organization better. So we continue to do those, and I appreciate those. Like I said, talking to 2,500, 2,700 folks gives you a real good idea of what your organization may be thinking and doing. The other thing I did want to share with you, and I gave Mr. Manius a handout that we'll provide to y'all. Okay, thank you. I'm not going to go through the details of every part of this program, but I will remind you of the history of JPS, the proud history that this community has always had. When there were polio outbreaks, people had few places to go. They turned to JPS oftentimes, and JPS was there for them. In the 80s, when we had an AIDS outbreak and people weren't quite sure what it was, our most recent situation with what we worked with Vinny in public health with Ebola and the fear that some of those things have. Well, oftentimes there are issues, mental health issues, our homeless population, that we have a community that we need to educate, and we have a taxpayer that we need to be efficient for. And if you look at our homeless population, and many of you have played a keen role in the homelessness effort in Tarrant County, Commissioner Brooks has been a leading stalwart for trying to deal with that. Many of you have played key roles in that. That's a population that we need to address, because if you continue to just walk away from it and hope it doesn't exist, or hope that nobody bothers you on a street corner or somewhere you feel that is a nuisance, it's not at all, and it's what JPS nobly takes care of oftentimes. And if you look at one emergency room visit equates to about 16 to 17 clinic visits from a cost standpoint. So if we get people into preventative care, it makes a big difference. And before you is just some numbers that I think are helpful that you may want to incorporate or use if you're ever talking about this issue. But the point-in-time count really is just a snapshot on a day. But I think what you'll find by these percentages is a whole lot of people are not going to vary from this. Even if you had 5,000 people responding or talked to, that 20% of our homeless population in Tarrant County roughly is about 20% children. 17% are, unfortunately, domestic violence has taken place in their lives. Mental illness plays a keen role. That number can go from 17% to 30%, but mental illness is a key portion. Chronically homeless, those that are going to be homeless are homeless and are chronically in that situation, 7%. And then, of course, our veterans. And I know, Judge, I've heard you talk about our veterans and the programs that we're trying to do in the county. Mental illness and homelessness oftentimes go hand in hand. The role JPS plays in that is critical, and what we do in our outreach efforts to do that are critical. Also, depressive disorders with women. Women oftentimes in a normal household are your caregivers, the ones making people do what they need to do for their health care. We have to remember the female population that we have that is homeless and how we deal with that and the issues that they face with acuity. Poorer health issues overall, higher levels of acuity. In the past, we've had a bit of a challenge, and JPS is really trying to do that. We have a young lady at JPS named Dawn Ziegler, and you're not going to find a better employee. She is just fantastic, and what she's done is taken our effort to make, in the old days of JPS, 5 years ago, we used to ask a homeless population if they were signing up for Connection. We wouldn't let them sign up for Connection until we got a W-2 form or a tax return. I can't think of anything that would be sillier. Those kind of things have stopped, and we've made that process far more simple for people to get into our program, to seek care. The other thing that we're doing is we have a nurse practitioner, and this nurse practitioner, young man that we hired and brought on board, and what this nurse practitioner does is he goes out to the homeless population. He is taking blood pressure and doing exams where the homeless population is, whether it's under a bridge, whether it's in a bar, whether it's on the street. And we're trying very, very hard to help. If you think about this population, and this is anecdotal, but if you look at the pyramid that we have on there, this is anecdotal because this is ours. This is Don Ziegler's and others' view. If you think about a homeless individual, the first thing you're going to think about is your own dignity. You're going to think about where you're going to go to the bathroom at. You're going to think about what clothes you wear. You're going to think about what the night is going to be, where you're sleeping. It's your own personal situation. Then you're going to think about food, sustenance, and how you exist. Then you're going to think about shelter and your own safety. Then you're going to think about health. So when we go out there and we start saying, well, people have easy solutions for the homeless issue, but there aren't easy solutions. It's challenging. And just going to somebody and saying, we need to get you into a primary care doctor, or we need to take care of your health. I understand that. That makes sense. But there's some immediate needs before that that folks who may not be in that situation do not understand. There was a program that was started in Nashville, Tennessee called Room in the Inn. And we now have congregations that are starting that here. We have 15 different congregations that are starting Room with an Inn. 61 nights of hospitality, 117 individuals were sheltered who couldn't find shelter in other places. This is where your faith-based organizations, JPS and other organizations in town, your shelters, Catholic Charities and others, really combine our efforts. We have seen more efforts in the past 3 to 5 years for cooperative spirit in this community than I think we've ever seen, and I think, Commissioner, you can probably attest to that. We've just seen groups coming together from faith-based to those that are tax-supported. And then, of course, we have our True Worth and our clinic and what many have worked tirelessly for. It's not so much the building that will be created on Lancaster that's important, it's the services that will be in there. And one of the things that we've done at JPS is when that clinic opens, which we hope will be by the end of 2016, maybe sooner, we don't want to put dates on it because I don't want people to get disappointed, but what we're doing is we're looking at x-ray capabilities, behavioral health services, we're looking at lab, we're looking at dental, we're looking for what fits that population. It's not cookie cutter. Cookie cutter loses the day, every day. The other, Tammy McGee here at the county, we really appreciate her efforts. We started a program with the Salvation Army in partnership for a pilot program for respite care. One of our big challenges is when somebody comes in homeless to JPS, we care for them, we feed them, we hold their hand, we clothe them, we provide love and care, and unfortunately, you release back to the street in a lot of cases. That's a tough situation when you're looking for continuity of care. So respite care would be really important if you had a place where you could have a bit of a stopover before you go into the elements, and we could deal with medications and wound care and some of the other things, aside from our clinic. Those are the things that we're working with the county with, the Salvation Army, and others. And I think we've already started that pilot program, but we'll expand upon it. We're talking with Union Gospel and the other shelters as well to look at what the possibilities are. In this time of joy and in this time of our holiday, I think all of us need to take a step back and consider our lives and the fortunes that we have, and consider what we're doing to outreach to those who may not be as fortunate. And that's not a one-time deal. It's not just let's think about folks during Thanksgiving or the holiday season. It's a continuum of care that we at JPS need to always be there for. And I think we have 6,000 folks at JPS who can go home at night feeling a whole lot better about never turning their back on that population. It's a noble cause, and I'm proud of what JPS is doing. So I want to give you an update. I wanted to let you know that. I wanted to thank you. And I also want to thank you as a Commissioner's Court and the audience and how kind you've been to me, but how much I appreciate it. And I do think this is a time where all of us should stand back and realize how good we have things. So I'm very appreciative of all of you and what you've afforded me. And thank you as judge and court members. I appreciate you very much.
Judge Mayer.
Yes.
Robert, I want to thank you for what JPS has done and for what you are doing to address the issue of homelessness. It has been a long and continuous planning and implementation exercise to get us to the point where our chronically homeless and our veterans homeless and our family homeless numbers are dropping.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still a lot of work to do, especially, well, in all of those categories, but also including the mentally ill.
Mm-hmm.
It's critical that we get more beds this side of the county jail in our community for the mentally ill. It is a shame that in most urban counties in America, the county jail is the largest provider of mental health services. We can do better in this community, and I think that the plans that have been discussed for the expansion of John Peter Smith Hospital, which includes a great expansion of mental health beds, is a tremendous step in the right direction. I applaud you for the partnerships in which you have engaged over the years. True Worth is a dream come true for this community. And frankly, it came out of our Health Care for the Homeless initiative that we started 10, 12 years ago. So this community is making progress. I just want to remind people that at this time of the year, we especially ought to be considering the fact that we need to create room at the end. Our homeless should not be relegated to stables or bridges or parks or vacant lots. We need to create room at the end in this community. Through that program, through building housing that provides permanent support services for our homeless population, by providing a home. A home cures many ills. And we have an obligation morally and fiscally to provide people with homes. It saves us money.
It does.
So thank you for what you're doing at JPS, and thank you for what you're doing with in conjunction, in collaboration with the rest of this community to address that issue. And thank you to my colleagues here on the court for being sensitive to the least of these. For truly, as the Lord said, as you have done for the least of these, you have also done for me.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you for your kind words. Appreciate it.
As Commissioner Brooks did allude to, the expansion program, I hope that in January, as we start into the new year, we can begin to kind of finalize and formalize exactly how we're going to approach and the program that we're going to go forward with for the possible bond election in November of 16. So I know that y'all have been working on that, but I think if we can, move forward in that in January, that would be very good.
I agree.
And then I guess the other thing, I just would wish and hope that you stay out of attics. I was reminded coming home or coming to work this morning how lucky we are that we didn't lose you last year.
Thank you. Thank you. You're very kind.
And I know that you attribute a lot of that, and I agree to the care that you received at JPS. And we're very glad that the facility was there to take care of you. But I hope that we all learn to stay out of, where's the sheriff? To stay out of the attics and allow other folks to go up there and bring down our many supplies and Christmas decorations.
I appreciate that. Thank you for your kind words. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, and Robert, in addition to what these two gentlemen have said, I want to congratulate you on what you are doing to encourage people to talk to you.
Thank you.
I think that's very good. Creating an environment where your employees can feel safe in expressing their concerns, their difference of opinion about the direction of the hospital is important. That's how you create a high-trust environment, and that's how you create an innovative environment. And I would encourage you to find creative ways to allow a diversity not only in racial and ethnicity, but also embrace the diversity of opinions. I think that is where the constructive area can come together and take JPS to the next level.
I agree. Thank you.
I encourage you to do that.
I appreciate your kind words.
Well said, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Happy ho-ho.
Ho-ho-ho.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Members of the court, we can go to item B. This is an update on the Texas County and District Retirement System. You might recall that when HR was here, that once this presentation is completed, there is an action item that we would consider. Ms. Campbell is here to address the court at this time.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Your Honor, members of court, thank you for your time in my presentation this morning. I'm just going to briefly give you high level of what's going on at TCDRS and where you stand, and then pass it back for the action item. All right. So TCDRS was created in 1967, and from the very beginning we were created to do retirement right. And there are three unique features that, help us stand apart from all other retirement plans. One is we're a savings-based plan. That means that your members are saving for their own retirement over the course of their career, and at the same time, you at the county are saving for the retirement. So when they become eligible and they're ready to retire, that money has already been saved in advance for their future benefit. Responsible funding. At TCDRS, by state statute, you are required to pay a minimum required contribution rate on an annual basis. There are no rate holidays. So if the minimum contribution rate doesn't fit into your budget, then you have the flexibility and local control, which is a third unique aspect, to actually adjust benefits to fit into your budget. Currently, we have over 677 employers. I think we hit the 700 mark earlier this year, and we serve over 255,000 Texans across the state. Last year was a benchmark year for us. We paid out over $1.05 billion in benefits on behalf of our employers. And that supported over $150 billion in economic output, helped create over 12,000 jobs, and add over $900 million to the Texas GDP. In Tarrant County alone, and this is all employers within Tarrant County, we paid out almost $50 million. And that money was directly injected into the local economy. All right, like I said before, we were set up for success in 1967. We are managed by a independent 9-member board of trustees, and they are judges, commissioners, tax appraisers, board members, not board members, members of our county clerks, yes, one in Tarrant County, members of our districts across the state, and currently we manage over $24 billion in assets. One thing that's important to remember about our plan is that at TCDRS we do not receive any state funding. Our funding, our money, or the way that we're funded is through member contributions, employer contributions, and our investment earnings. So TCDRS, with over $24 billion under assets, can provide benefits efficiently, even more so than a 401k. And in fact, our costs are 1/4 to 1/3 of 1%, which in contrast to like a 401k would be 1% to 2% of assets. And that's for three main reasons. Number one, in professional investment managers, because of our asset size, we can get the best of the best. We have an optimally balanced portfolio. Over the course of an individual's life, they accumulate their retirement, and then when they become closer to retirement, they have to move to safer investments to make sure that that principal will last their lifetime. Well, in our system, as people grow older and retire, we have brand new people coming on. So in essence, we're forever young. And then finally, we have pooled longevity risk. And our actuaries are able to determine a life expectancy with a pretty great percent of accuracy with 255,000 members. Now, it's harder with one person, but with a large pool, it allows them to estimate that with more accuracy. So, since 2005 through 2014, TCDRS has been almost 90% funded, and that puts us in the top 15% of all public retirement systems nationwide. And this even includes the downturn in 2008. Tarrant County has their own funded ratio, and I'll get to that in a little while. But first of all, how does the plan work? Well, employees are contributing a percentage of their pay. Every paycheck, it goes into their own account, and that account earns at a 7% annual compounded interest rate. At the same time, the county is funding their benefit, and the county money is going into a county account, and that's accumulating over time as well. When a person becomes eligible and gets ready to retire, we look at their account value, we look at their life expectancy, and then we look at the option that they choose at retirement, and that's how we calculate the retirement benefit. So what are the county benefits currently? Currently, your employees are contributing 7% of their pay per paycheck, and that's sent to TCDRS on their behalf. At retirement, they're being matched 2-for-1 or 200%. The foundation for Tarrant County is that they must work 8 years, and by working 8 years, then they become vested, and they've earned the right to retire someday. And to become retirement eligible, they just have to hit a certain age. If they have 8 years of service and they are 60 years old, your employees are eligible to retire. Or if their age plus their years of service equals 75, they're eligible to retire. Or if you have someone that started working at 18 and they've worked 30 years, they're 48, they're eligible to retire. So anyone who's worked 30 years, regardless of their age, is eligible to retire.
Some would qualify in all three categories.
But you only have to hit one.
He didn't hear you.
Yeah, he's down there calculating his 106 years of service.
So let's quickly look at a profile. Your current employees on average are about 47 years old with about 14 years of service. And then your retirees on average are retiring at age 61 after 18 years of service with the county for a benefit of about $28,000 annually. And this says volumes to the county. You all retain your employees longer than the average employer at TCDRS, or they work a little bit longer before retirement. So how do we fund retirement? Remember at the beginning I said our plan is funded in 3 ways: employer contributions, member contributions, and investment earnings. Well, last year we paid out over $1 billion in benefits, and 77 cents of each of those dollars came from our investment earnings. 13 cents comes from employer contributions, and the last 10 cents actually comes from our own pockets, members' own pockets. So investments are important, and here's our just a little chart of our returns. Last year our return was 6.8%, but what's important to us at TCDRS is over the long term. Our investment assumption is 8%, and it's important that we make 8% over the long term. Average employees are working 16 or 17 years, and then they're retired another 15, 20, 25 plus years. And so our investment time horizon is actually 30 years down the road, and you can see here that our 30-year return is 9.2%. Our board of directors looks at our investments every quarter, every board meeting, and at that time we use capital market assumptions to look forward, and then we also look at benchmarks to make sure that our advisors and our managers are doing what they need to do. And you can see by this chart that we have outperformed our benchmark returns in all of those years. So we're diversified across asset classes, but not only across asset classes, but also within asset classes. And our website was updated this last April. If any of you are interested in drilling into those subset classes and learning more about who manages the money and where we're investing, our new website is rich with information on our investments. So Paul Williams is our investment, our investment key investment officer downstairs in our building, and his dream would be our 8% assumption every single year. He'd sleep well at night, but that's not true. We know that in any given year, we expect plus 10% of 8 or minus 10% of 8. This is called our risk tolerance. And I'm sorry on this slide it doesn't show up. It's a gray band when you look at the paper version. So every year we expect as high as an 8% return or as low as a minus 2% return. These are our returns from 1997 through 2014. And this shows that in every year except for 2, we've performed just as we expected. And the 2 outliers are the Great Recession of 2008 and the subsequent recovery of 2009. So that's how the plan is funded. The second part that I want to talk about is how we determine that annual contribution rate. Well, every year on December 31st, our actuaries take a snapshot of Tarrant County's plan, because you have to remember in our system we might have 700 employers, and each one of those employers is valued independently of the others. There's no cost sharing. You're not helping to pay neighboring counties' benefits, and they're not helping to pay you or the appraisal districts or anybody's. So we're taking a snapshot of Tarrant County's plan to see what happened. And so our actuaries are going to study your workforce, and they're going to look at your current workforce and calculate the benefits that we're going to pay in the future. And then we're going to take those back to today's dollars, and then they're going to find a rate that funds those benefits over a period of time. And in a nutshell, what they're trying to do is make sure that you're not overpaying or underpaying for benefits. So in 2016, your annually determined required contribution rate is 14.18% of your payroll. And this is a decrease from last year. Last year was 14.6. You currently have an elected rate of 17.5% in place. And by paying just the required rate, you're doing two things. You're paying your current employees future benefits, and you're paying down any unfunded liabilities. By paying the extra higher elected rate, you're paying those liabilities down a little bit more quickly. So, of course, at TCDRS, we've said this for years now, we don't like the term unfunded because that indicates that you're not funding a liability, when in fact, just by paying that required rate, you are doing that over a closed 20-year period of time, as well as if you are passing benefit increases, such as the cost of living, which the county does, you're actually funding that benefit increase in 15 years, and by paying that higher elected rate, you might in fact be paying that off in one single year. Okay, so here's your rate change from 2015 to 2016. Your rate for 2015 was 14.60% of payroll. You're paying the higher elected rate of 17.5%. Going forward for 2016, we don't know if you're going to pass a benefit increase yet. You can see that we had investment gains in the pipeline because we smoothed those over 5 years. So our investment return decreased your rate by a little bit. The elected rate that you're paying, the 17.5%, decreased your rate by 29 basis points, or almost 1/3%. And then demographics and other changes reduced it even further. And most of that is attributed to payroll variance. Your payroll grew a little bit more than we had assumed. So the ending required rate for 2016 is 14.18%. This graph illustrates paying that higher elected rate and what it does to your rate over time. Now, this is going to change year to year based on decisions that you make, but this shows that if you continue to pay that 17.5%, your rate continues to decrease, and those liabilities are paid off much sooner than the 20 years.
And that big dip around 2024, that's when we pay off. In prior years, we had taken our COLAs and we had spread that as opposed to paying them all in a lump sum at the time that we made that determination.
You're correct. So that big dip, it's really two things. It's the end of the losses of 2008, because at that time we were smoothing those over 10 years and they were amortized over 20. So it's the end of the 08 losses that were in the pipeline, and also the COLA, and not paying the COLA off and funding that in a single year.
Okay.
Correct. So this is just a chart that shows your assets versus your liabilities. The assets are green, the liabilities are in red, and the line that goes up is the actual benefits. So this shows that you have a nice ratio of assets to liabilities, and in future years, if you continue to pay that higher rate, it will pay that, or your actual liabilities will be zero, and you'll be 100% funded at that point. So this talks a little bit about flexibility and local control. Again, the slide you can't see well on the screen. You are at 200% matching rate with the 7% employee deposit rate, so your required rate is 14.18%. And this just shows the difference in benefits and how employers have that flexibility and local control to immediately reduce benefits, to decrease their costs, or to enhance benefits as well. So how do we keep rates stable? Number one, maintain your current level of benefits. Number two, you can pay a higher elected rate, or do an additional employer contribution, which you've done in years past, but this last year you chose to do the higher elected rate.
And a part of the reason for doing that was that by doing the higher rate, we gain the benefit of the state paying for the CSCD employees, whereas if we did a lump sum, the county would be paying the amount, and we may or may not be able to recoup that portion that pertains to the CSCD employees. Have y'all looked at, I know we've had discussions about the CSCD before, employees before, have y'all looked any further into possibly segmenting those off from our county?
We have, that's a great question, and we're in the process now. We've had other CSCDs come forward and say we'd like to be a standalone entity. So we're in the process now of making that determination. There is a part of our act that specifically allows CSCDs to act as county employees. So our legal department is working on it and gathering information, and we'll go forward from there.
Okay, thank you.
So a little bit about cost of living adjustments. There are two types: a flat rate, which is a single, a 1, a 2, a 3%. Our board of directors caps that on an annual basis. It's based on CPI. CPI in 2014 was about 0.76%, so the only flat rate COLA available to our employers this year is 1%. And then there's the CPI-based COLA, which allows for catch-up based on the actual reducing of the purchasing power of the dollar based on inflation. And that can be 10% up to 100% of restoring that purchasing power. Again, COLAs are funded over 15 years unless you're doing additional contributions and higher elected rates, and then they're funded much shorter than that. They are not automatic. The court must approve them on an annual basis if they choose to do so. And these are an automatic liability because they're not pre-funded. So that's why the additional contributions help offset that. GASB, we've talked about this, repeating COLA, moving on. Here we are, Employer Services team. Erica Nieto is here with me today. She is your new Employer Services rep as of last September, so she'll be up here giving you this briefing next year, but we're here to help. We have a lot going on, and we're always available and for phone calls, questions, emails, anything you need. So that's the end of my briefing. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
We may have some in a minute.
Okay.
Thank you, Amy. So as I mentioned when I was up here earlier, we do have an action item for the court today. If you'll take a look at the second page of your court communique, we have 4 options for the court's consideration today. And just one item just to repeat, I think it'll help as we help the court as you look through the items. The required contribution rate for 2016 is 14.18%. What budget has actually set aside in the way of funding is 17.5%.
We budgeted that, didn't we?
Yes, sir. And so the difference between the 14.18 and the 17.5 gives the court 3.32% in additional funding to address unfunded liability, if you wish, as well as COLA adjustments for our retirees. Our budget department has estimated that the 3.32 percentage difference will generate around $9 million in extra funding. So if you take a look.
I have a question on that one. If we elect option 1.
Yes, sir.
Which we have budgeted for $1,750, and that will result in $9 million going to unfunded liability. That will not be a lump sum. It will be a little at a time?
Correct, because again, we would be.
So we don't get caught into that.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
And again, Commissioner, if I could just add one additional comment with option 1, all of the additional funding, the $9 million, would go towards the unfunded liability. There would be no COLA, retiree COLA adjustment with option 1.
Did we give?
There was no COLA adjustment for Social Security this year. No cost of living increases.
And historically, the court may recall that for many, many years, the court actually approved 80% CPI COLA adjustments for retirees. In 2011, there was no COLA adjustment, and then since then, the court has approved 50% CPI COLA adjustments.
So that's what we did last year?
That's what we did last year. Yes, sir.
I'm leaning toward option one.
And option one is the 1% flat rate.
No, sir. Option one would take the 17.5% that's funded.
With no COLA adjustment.
With no COLA adjustment.
And $9 million to unfunded liability.
Correct.
And no COLA for
retirees.
Retirees.
Correct. That's option one. If you like, I could go through the additional options.
Go ahead.
Okay. So option two would allow us to address the 4.18% only. So there'd be no COLA adjustment, and we would not address unfunded liability. So the judge is shaking his head no. Option three would be the 1% flat rate. As Amy explained, that would be that would result in a 1% adjustment for every retiree. So they'd see an uptick of 1% in their pensions. And that would, in fact, also address our unfunded liability at about $3.7 million. The bulk of that would go for the COLA adjustment.
But it'll add to our unfunded liability.
No, we could address the unfunded liability and reduce it by about $5.2 million. Did I say?
I think we were
I'm sorry, by
3.7.
3.7.
It doesn't put as much against the unfunded.
No, 3.7 million. The bulk of it, 5.2, would go towards COLA adjustment for retirees. And then finally, the fourth option would be the 50% CPI, which again is consistent with what the court has done for the past 3 years. We would take the 17.5% in funding and allocate 7.4% to reduce our 7.4 million, thank you, to reduce our unfunded liability, and 1.5 to address the COLA increases. So those are the four options.
I like option 4. It gives adequate pay down on our liability, on our so-called unfunded liability, and still benefits the retiree population. I'll make that a motion if you wish.
The one thing, well, that's fine. I guess the one of the discussion, Amy, help me out here, but the GASB, in their infinite wisdom, we have given COLA increases in the past.
Correct.
By us doing that, they will assume that we're going to do this every year into the future.
You are already, this year when we produced the GASB 68 report, since you passed a COLA last year, you have already been deemed a repeating COLA employer. I'm not using that word.
Offender.
And you're being valued as if you were going to pass a COLA every year going on, even if that is not your intent. The rule of thumb, if you do not want that status, is to only pass a COLA once every 3 years.
I do remember that discussion that we had last year.
But you say we're already in that status.
Correct, you're there, and the only way to actually get away from it is not to pass a COLA for the next 3 years. And then you're not in that repeating status, and then from there forward, then you do it once every 3 years.
And so along the lines of what Commissioner Johnson was saying, Medicare chose not, or Social Security chose not to give any increase this year. If we give one, that increase only goes to the folks who are currently retired.
Correct. This is a retiree-only benefit, and it's only going to go to those that it's impacted. So inflation was so low last year that you might, since you did 80% CPIs earlier, 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, they might actually be caught up past the 50% CPI for today. or for this year. However, every retiree is eligible for it as long as their purchasing power has decreased and there's room for it to go up.
Had we not do the COLA last year, we would not be categorized in that group, right? Okay,
Correct.
but now, if we decided not to do COLA, we have to do it for 3 years.
Correct.
Successively.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's a huge penalty to our employee, to our retiree.
Okay, what's your pleasure?
I move for option 4.
Okay, what's the next alternative?
I would move for option 1.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second for option 1. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Members of the court, if we could go to the last item on the briefing. This is our federal update. Mr. Pipes is here to address the court at this time.
Yeah, we got a transportation bill.
We do.
And it's even been signed.
It has, indeed. Okay. There we go.
Now you're going to tell us that the Cadillac tax is going away, right?
We're working on it.
We're working on it.
Well, thank you all very much. Good morning, everybody. I realize I'm the last thing between you guys and lunch, so I'll keep this short. We do want to give you an update on our work in Washington, and many of you we've seen in Washington in the last few weeks, and we thank you for your time. We're going to be calling on you even more next year, so be ready for that. But I do want to update you quickly on the budget situation before we talk about our county agenda. The budget, as you know, or the appropriation bill, as you know, expires on December 11th. It looks like the talks on a longer-term bill are not going so well. There probably will be a short-term extension by Friday, and then they'll try to spend next week getting an omnibus bill done. A couple of the issues that are at stake that are slowing it down, the main one being the refugee issue. On the Republican side, there's a desire to include language either prohibiting the refugees or stopping some of the funding for it, and also dealing with the visa program, the tourist program that allows some of these folks to get here. So Democrats in the White House are much less willing to discuss those in the context of appropriation, so there's a little bit of a hang-up there. Also, the tax extenders are a big issue that are being debated right now. These are the research and development tax credits, those sorts of things. Those are being...
the sales tax deductions.
Correct. So those things are being discussed as well.
Let's bring it home to most of the people in this room.
There you go. There you go. So we'll keep you posted. I'll send out the daily emails as I've been doing, as we did back in October when we were...
Those are tremendously helpful.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think that works well, and that way you guys can give me feedback. If you have questions, we can get you additional information. So we'll send those out this week as well. I do want to update you on our federal agenda, and I'm going to spend most of our time on the waiver because that's where we've been focused a lot in the last couple of months. Before we do that, some of our other priorities, the Highway Trust Fund bill that the judge mentioned. It's a 5-year bill, over $200 billion in highways, and it doesn't entirely close the gas tax, but it uses, if I could call it some budget gimmicks, it basically takes $70 billion from the general fund, ironically from the Fed and some of the money that they give back to their member banks. They're going to move some of that over to close the gap in the money that comes from the gas tax. They did not raise the gas tax. It remains at 18.4 cents, but they did provide funding for the next 5 years. So the last several years we've had 1-year bills. This is progress. And as you know, we were, along with NACO and Matt Chase and our team, very active in this space. We put forward a couple of pay-for suggestions. They didn't use ours, but they did pass a long-term bill, so that is progress. So now that the bill's been done, we can take a look in going forward into next year on transportation. specifically projects relating to this area. It'd be a good time to do some visits on the Hill. We started with Commissioner Wynn last month on some of that, and we'll continue to do that.
Is it funded for all 5 years?
It's not. It's, again, there's some gimmicks involved. It's actually a 6-year bill, and it's funded for 5. Is the correct way to phrase it, which is why.
As I understand it, there is a large pot of money designated in that bill for local bridge reconstruction.
There is, and that's one of the things that I'd like to explore. If you guys have the time to come up and travel with us next spring, that's one of the things we want to work on.
Count on.
Okay, we'll do it. I'll follow up with you, and we'll get you up there. The other projects, the grants, we continue to work on and look for opportunities. The 911 issue that Commissioner Wynn has been working on, so far so good. Pretty quiet on that front. There are no unfunded mandates are going to be passed down anytime soon that we're aware of. Commissioner Johnson and I continue to work on the Morris-Dido Road issue, and he's up to date on that. Let me talk about the waiver. This is really the big news and really where we've been focused so much. Again, thank you to so many of you who have come up in the last couple of weeks, including our county administrator, to do meetings on the Hill. There's several phases to this now that the application has been filed with CMS. The first phase is educating our friends on the Hill, particularly the staffers, and we've been doing that. We've now had roughly 120 meetings on the Hill. And in addition to that, the second phase is you all, bringing the elected officials. It's one thing to hear from us. It's another thing to hear from the people who are the elected officials and working on this issue for the county. So we've been doing that with Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Wynn, Judge Whitley, and GK as well. We were very successful on our last round of meetings. I think it's included in their briefing materials at GK, the letter, which we can talk more about here in a minute. One of the ideas that came out of these meetings, it was a meeting with Senator Cornyn's office, was a letter from the delegation to CMS letting them know how important this reauthorization is to our county. And we were able to subsequently not only have the letter written, but signed by 37 members of the delegation, which I think is everybody but one. So that is pretty astonishing support and sends a very, very powerful message to CMS that the entire Texas delegation is watching.
Who didn't sign?
I'll have to ask Scott. Louis Gomert would be a good guess, but I'll have to double check with Scott on that. He'll know the name. But CMS is, as you know, an agency that reports to Congress, so when they get a letter from 37 of the 38 members, including both senators, they pay attention. So we feel like that's a good opening salvo. We're going to continue to do the meetings in January and February. I know Judge Whitley's coming up in February, and we'll be taking advantage of Commissioner Brooks's work with NACO and his time up there as well. And then once we hear back from CMS and we'll get feedback from them, probably February or March, that's when the third phase begins, and we can begin answering their questions and give them a response. And that'll be, again, a time when we'll want you guys to come up with us and do some of those meetings, including some meetings probably at CMS, again, to let them know how important this is for us. So let me move on to the letter. Do we have the letter, GK? Or is it in the packet?
The letter is in your court.
Okay. It's in. Yeah, take a look at it if you get a chance. Again, it's largely the result of the meetings that you all did. So thank you for your effort on that. We're still waiting to hear back from CMS. They will formally respond to the letter itself, which will be kind of the first tip off of their thinking on the waiver, and we'll let you know once we hear back from them. But we feel like we're off to a very good start on this, and 2016 is going to be even busier. So prepare for some travel, because we're going to need you all up there. Let me stop there and take any questions you may have.
With regards to that Cadillac tax, I know one of the things that we were discussing about that is there's a tremendous amount of pushback from the administration on that, because that is the way they expected to be able to fund the Affordable Care Act.
Correct.
So I think that there's still a lot of people just now becoming aware of that, both in Congress as well as many of the local jurisdictions, as well as many of the unions. So it's gonna be a little bit of a dilemma, especially as we enter. I think both party presidential candidates have come out opposed to the Cadillac tax.
Yeah.
I believe Hillary did, as well as everyone on our
right.
side.
Yeah, and again, that's an issue where we can be helpful, and we are trying to do this now in taking it from the abstraction to the concrete. And what does this really mean on the ground for cities, counties, businesses? So those conversations are ongoing, and that'll continue. So we'll keep you posted on that as well. I think I had something in the clips or maybe it was last week.
Just explaining to Congress what it would have cost them had it applied to them.
Right. Yeah.
Would have been.
Congress likes to exempt themselves from things.
From everything.
Just parenthetically,
Yes, sir.
Louis Gohmert's signature is on.
Oh, it is Gomer. Okay. I'll find out who the other one is. So there's 36 members and 2 senators, so there's 38, and we had 37. So there's one we didn't get. I'll find out from Scott who it is. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Kate.
Good job.
We have one audience participation today. Ms. Jenkins.
Again, thank you so very much for this opportunity. Just a quick review. I was going to talk about my plans for 2016, but I keep going through my files and finding interesting stuff. My son has now been in jail for 10 years and 3 months for intoxication manslaughter in the 2004 death of Grapevine police officer Darren Medlin. And without diminishing our remorse for this family, our son was not intoxicated, not drunk driving, but had an epilepsy seizure. Certainly during this time of the year, we have tremendous remorse for his 2 wonderful daughters. And I continue to work this not only for my son, but for them, because when I think of the context of them knowing and hearing that my son killed their dad versus an accident, because in my family, when we've had those things, and there's such a different context for us. But anyway, please go to my son's website, justiceforroyjr.com, to hear more about our story. The first fact is a police officer to interact with my son. The first one, Officer Ramsauer, she's the lady on my poster. She testified in court that she turned off her tape. We know that was tampered with. The second fact was the Tarrant County District Alpert changed the blood draw handling process and had it taken to the Tarrant County Medical Examiner's Office. Now, that sounds reasonable if you think that he did it because he wanted it in the results quicker, but it could have been done at the hospital the same night. But anyway, my son's blood draw shows up at 0.11. So, and I added Dr. Periwani's picture to my poster, and it basically, in all this time, we've been asking the FBI for help. It turns out that FBI and Dr. Periwani have a relationship that goes all the way back to 1993 with the David Koresh FBI siege in Waco. In 1993, this was a quote, says, "This was a good choice for persons who did not want the cause, manner, or time, or death known." In 1999, Dr. Periwani wrote, "There's a feeling one should go back and reevaluate. The focus at the time was not on whether the FBI was doing that shooting." And in 2015, I look at the biography that Dr. Periwani puts on this commission that he serves on, and he says that he worked for the FBI in 1993. So that kind of tells me why the FBI may not be so interested in helping us.
Thank you very much, Ms. Jenkins, for being here today.
That's all we have at this time.
We'll recess our open meeting now to proceed to closed session to discuss items exempted under. Having returned from our closed session, there being no business, we are adjourned.